So, limits of a function. Limits of a function is a fundamental concept in calculus and analysis concerning the behavior of that function near a particular input. It is the limit at which f of x approaches a given value. And in this equation, L is the limit of f of x as x approaches a. Limits are boundaries, and to get them, all you have to do is compute. Limits of a function follows the basic principles of substitution, and all you have to do is substitute. So, in f of x is equivalent to x plus 1, f of x is the range, and x is the domain. So in this equation, the limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 5 is 11. So as you can see, all you had to do was substitute x for 5 and you get 2 times 5 plus 1 equals 11. So in the second example, we have the limit of 2x minus 3 as x approaches 2, and all you have to do here is substitute x with 2, so you get 1. And the last one, substitute x for negative 6 and you get negative 3. So here we have a different kind of example. We have the limit of x squared minus x minus 2 over x minus 2 as x approaches 2. So as you can see, we get 0 over 0, which makes it indeterminate. And when it is indeterminate, all you have to do is factor the equation. So once we factor this, we are left with x plus 1 and we substitute 2 to x and we get 3. So now let's go to limit laws. The first law is the constant law, and here it just basically states that if you have a constant, you put this in front of the limit. So here we have limit of 2x minus 1 as x approaches 5. First we separate the two terms, so we get 2, the limit of x as x approaches 5, and the limit of 1, I'm sorry about that, as x approaches 5. So we basically just substitute 5 into x and we get 2 times 5 minus 1, which is 9. Our next limit law is the limits of a constant, and here just basically states that if you have a constant and no variable, then your limit is that constant. So the limit of 3 as x approaches 3 is 3, and the limit of 4 as x approaches 1 is 4. Next limit law is the addition and subtraction law. And here it states that if you have two terms that add up together or subtract from one another, then you separate these two terms and you apply the first two limit laws and you will get your limit. So we have the limit of 3 plus x as x approaches 3, and you separate these two terms, apply the first limit law, and you get 3, and you get 3 plus 3 equals 6. For our second one, we have the limit of x minus 4 as x approaches 1, and we separate these two terms, so you have the limit of x as x approaches 1 minus the limit of 4 as x approaches 1, and if we substitute x with 1, we get 1 minus 4, which leaves you with negative 3. So that is your limit. So our next limit law is the multiplication and division law. And here, things get quite complicated. This is because we have to combine we have to make use of the first 3 limit laws. So here's an example. The limit of 3x minus 2 over 4 as x approaches 5. So here we have to separate 3x minus 2. So we have 3, the limit of x as x approaches 5, minus the limit of 2 as x approaches 5, over the limit of 4 as x approaches 5. And we just substitute 5 into x, and we have 3 times 5 minus 2 over 4 equals 13 over 4. So our next example is a bit more complicated. As you can see, if we substitute 1 for all the x's, we get an indeterminate form, which means we will have to factor. So once we factor, we are left with the limit of 2x minus 3 as x approaches 1. So we have to apply the first limit law. So we get 2. Limit of x as x approaches 1 minus limit of 3 as x approaches 1, and if we compute and substitute, we get negative 1. So that is all you have to know, and I hope you learned a thing or two. And thank you so much!